Welcome or welcome back to the project. If you're new here, I'm spending 12 months trying a different creative hobby each month to combat my decision paralysis and to find my ideal hobby. I'm looking for something I can do as often as I want without getting bored or burnt out. 6 of them are things that I've tried before and just want to try again, and the other 6 are things that I've never tried before. Last month, I tried bookbinding for the first time. This month, I'm giving watercolor another try. Watercolor is a hobby that I'm returning to. It was something that I enjoyed but dropped prematurely. For context, when I first tried watercolor, I had been spending nearly all of my free time doing nothing but drawing for nearly 2 years. I just figured, since I was a designer, it wouldn't hurt to be able to draw better. Not a bad idea in theory, but I obsessed over it. Whenever I had free time and wasn't drawing, I felt bad about it. I felt guilty that I was wasting my precious time instead of pouring it into something that I arbitrarily decided I needed to be good at. And while I did improve at drawing, I started hating it. I got mega burned out. That experience is part of what spawned this whole project. I wanted to give myself room to try something without worrying too much about quality or productivity, and then just move on. There's no need to fight friction if I'm just looking for a fun outlet. So back to watercolor. After that journey with drawing, mostly with pen, pencil, and charcoal, I thought it would be fun to start moving towards illustration. I had tried acrylic before and didn't really care for it, but I loved the look of watercolor painting, so that felt like a natural choice to me. I was horrible at it at first, which is normal, but after some time of trying it sporadically, I eventually did get a little bit better. The problem, and ultimately the reason I put it down, was just, it was still too close to drawing. If anything, it was worse. It's drawing plus color theory. Despite all that, I wanted to try it again because I felt like I didn't give it a fair shot. So for this month, I mainly wanted to hit the big 3: portrait, still life, and landscape, with some fun doodles and practice mixed in. I also had to remind myself that this isn't a productivity challenge. This isn't about how much I can paint in a month. This is about how much fun I can have painting for a month. I kicked off this project with some warm-ups. The only real goal here was to remember how the paint reacts and think about what techniques I wanted to use for the month. I did some wet on wet, some wet on dry, some glazing, and then just sort of played around. So far, so good. Nothing really painted yet, but it was fun to play without the pressure of trying to capture what I'm looking at. A few days after the warm-up, I thought it would be fun to put a little still life together. So I put up a sheet, grabbed a table, and found some stuff laying around the house. Again, feeling very optimistic about the project and eager to get started. So I've got the still life set up behind me. If you watched the last video, then you are familiar with this book. This is I just realized I don't know which one is the front. I guess I get to decide right now. I don't know how this is gonna go. So this will be fun for both of us. But anyways, yeah, I just wanted to quickly say before I get started that I'm using the new sketchbook, so wish me luck. I couldn't really figure out a good way to record myself and the still life. Most of what I recorded looked like this, but the process went about as you'd expect. I started by sketching the items on the table, not thinking too much about how I'd actually paint them. And then I very nervously and stressfully painted the still life. I think I spent somewhere between an hour and a half and 2 hours between sketching and painting, with this as a final result. This is what I came up with. You can see that very well. That was not fun. I don't know if it's not fun because I'm bad at it or if I just don't enjoy it. I think it makes me anxious. I'm gonna keep going, obviously, but it just makes me very anxious. So far, not great, but like I said, we're gonna keep going. Let's hope things get better. Spoiler alert, it gets better. It's the next day, and I went to my mom's. We had a little birthday party for my sister, and then I painted this on her little back garden, back patio. Had a good time. I enjoyed it. I want to say that I realized pretty early on, maybe 30 minutes, that it wasn't going to be a terrible painting, and I think that contributed largely to my enjoyment of the process this time. I didn't end up recording because I didn't want the pressure of having to perform on camera, I guess. And also my family was there. It felt kind of strange. And it was also about to rain, and it did end up raining. It was storming kind of right as I was finishing up. I had to finish the rest under my mom's porch. Hey, jury is still out on whether or not this is going to be fun for the rest of the month, but today was much better. And for comparison, here is the first one again from yesterday, from last night. This was today's, so we march on, we continue. Unlike the still life where I was by myself in the house and painted because I felt like I needed to, I was around family and only brought my paint supplies in case I felt inspired. After the festivities, I was just sitting outside drinking some coffee when I thought it would be fun to paint something. I think having that positive attitude coming into the painting helped me enjoy the process a lot more. I still had that horrible feeling about 15 minutes in when I was putting in big shapes and things were looking a little crazy that it wasn't going to turn out very good. But once I got over that hump, it was a lot more enjoyable. That formula, or some such variation of coffee, friends, family, and being outside, seems to be a rather effective way to enjoy the process. A few days later, my girlfriend and I met a friend of ours at a local coffee shop for one of their craft nights. I didn't really know what to expect, but it was super chill. It wasn't led by anyone. Instead, you could just paint or work on whatever. They even provide supplies if you need them. I didn't really know what to paint, so I opted for a low-stress option and picked a picture for my phone. I forgot to record my thoughts after this, but I had a good time. I do think that a large portion of that was because I was hanging out with friends and felt some sense of community, being surrounded by a small group of folks all doing the same thing. I think this was especially true because I didn't feel strongly one way or the other about the painting once it was finished. In the past, that definitely weighed heavily on how I felt about the process. About a week after our trip to the coffee shop was something that I had been looking forward to the whole month. At the beginning of this project, I planned to camp during the month I tried watercolor so I could do some plein air painting. Some friends and I set up at Red Top Mountain State Park in North Georgia. We missed Tropical Storm Arthur by about 12 hours and enjoyed a mild and sunny, although a bit humid weekend. I was inspired by Mike Dutton from Pedal and Paint, where he rides his bike out to some beautiful landscape and sets up to paint. But I don't own a bike, so I would just be hiking. Saturday morning, we picked out a trail and set out. We saw lots of wildlife and folks enjoying the park. And on the trail, we stumbled upon a nice picnic table with a view that I believe used to be an old campsite. I did a few sketches here of our view of the lake before checking out this abandoned bathhouse nearby. This area was on a little peninsula, and I hiked around to the other side and found another cool spot. I said goodbye to my friends as they left me to paint so they could finish their hike. And this was probably the most fun I had all month. The combination of nature, camaraderie, and art created a perfect storm for me. I'm walking back to the campsite now. It was fine. I enjoyed it. It was fun, looking for a spot. I did enjoy that aspect of it. I'd do it again. I think I'm going to. Long walk back. I know that may not have been convincing, but trust me, I had a great time painting. I just had several miles to hike to get back to camp, and I was already very tired. But something still felt off about painting. I will say I enjoyed it more in this context. I think just getting to sit outside and do something is always fun. I enjoy nature, and we're obviously camping, so getting to go on a hike and then be like, oh, I'm just gonna paint right here was pretty cool. I think that's also consistent with when I was painting at my mom's, just sitting out on the back patio. Maybe I just don't like doing it in my room, in a room in my house. I think I enjoy it a lot more when I'm outside, even if I don't do well. Yeah. This seems consistent with the other two experiences that I enjoyed. It seems like if the only thing happening is painting, then that can easily hinder my ability to enjoy the process. I might still come out with a painting I like, but I probably won't have fun doing it, which, again, is the opposite of what I'm trying to find in a hobby. To test this theory, I needed to spend some time alone back inside and see how I felt. So after the camping trip, there were still a few things that I wanted to try. I mentioned in the beginning that I wanted to try painting a portrait and just do some more doodling and playing around. So I started with the portrait and had a roller coaster of a time. Back when I was still drawing a lot, I frequently visited the website Line of Action to practice figure drawing. And there was this one model that would come up very often that I enjoyed drawing. So I figured it would be fun to go back and try to do a proper portrait of the guy. I pulled up my reference and made a sketch, and hated it. I don't think I felt this amount of disdain for a drawing in a long time, so I erased it and just started messing around on the page. This didn't help at all. Somehow, this made me feel even worse, and I was ready to just write it off and not do it at all. But I put it down for a few minutes, flipped the page, and tried again. This time I made an okay sketch and figured it would be good enough to at least get me going. It took a few tries to mix some flesh tones that I liked, but after blocking in some of the big shapes, my mood did a complete 180. I was just excited to keep going. It's not the best thing I ever painted, and I didn't quite get his likeness, but I was thrilled with the result. I also really enjoyed the process after that initial hump. I don't know if this disproves it, but this experience definitely threw a wrench in my original hypothesis. So, is watercolor the thing? I think there are some other important things that need to be mentioned before I can answer that. As I mentioned at the beginning, I've tried watercolor before, and even though it wasn't for very long, that experience was pretty consistent with this one. It seems like for me, watercolor is only enjoyable under the right conditions. Being outside or amongst friends is preferable, and/or knowing early on that I'll be pleased with the result. Otherwise, there just isn't much joy to be found. There are a lot of variables to account for in a project like this, like setting, equipment, skill level, time, and patience. Would I like this more if I was better at it? I mean, probably. But there are other hobbies I've tried where the training and practice weren't painful. It's not a creative hobby necessarily, but I like tennis. And when I first tried to play tennis, I could barely keep the ball in play. But that never got me down. I enjoyed the sport, and I liked being outside, and I liked being active. So practice never felt like a chore to me. I'm no expert, but I'm much better now. And I could confidently say it is more fun when you're better at the game. But even when I was objectively terrible, I still had fun playing the game. So with that being said, watercolor is not the hobby for me. I'm sure I'll still dust off the paint and brushes when I go camping or hang out with friends, but I just can't see this being a continual hobby. And it's not that I can't have fun with it, because obviously I can. It's just not consistent or reliable fun, which isn't exactly what I'm looking for in a holy grail hobby. But that's not a problem. I've got 10 more hobbies on the horizon, and now it's time to try something else. If you enjoyed this video, please check out part 1 of this series where I try bookbinding for the first time, and subscribe so you don't miss out on the rest of the project. Thanks for watching.